So the other day I received an email from a subscriber. It's always great to receive an email from any one of you, and I always encourage people to reach out to me if you ever have a request for additional information, if you're ever confused about something, or if you'd like to inquire about the various services I offer. But this particular one, it stuck with me because it highlighted an issue which I feel has been prevalent within this community for some time. And this issue is various blog posts or even YouTubers trying to pigeonhole people into certain career paths based upon their type. When in reality, it just doesn't work like this. In reality, we have sectors within sectors within sectors in any given job. So that means anyone of any given cognitive predisposition will be able to excel within a certain area of any given field. There is no black and white map of what sector is suited more to one type than another. But let's say this was the case. Let's say for every type there is an area in which they excel and then an area in which they perform poorly. What kind of society would this be? A society filled with people pursuing solely what they are naturally predisposed to do, regardless of their own desires, according only to a criterion of natural competency. Is a society where people are stifling their progress. It's a society where people aren't challenging themselves in the same way they would otherwise. And ultimately it's a society of deeply unsatisfied people with suppressed dreams. But thankfully, it just doesn't work like this. Thankfully, you cannot pigeonhole people into careers based upon their type. Because at the end of the day, every single career has thousands of branches in which one person may excel over another one. And then there's the fact that type is not this binary construct. Every single person is unique unto themselves. And every single type has thousands upon thousands of possible deviations. And not only is every single person unique, but every single person is uniquely adaptable. If a person of any given type is taken outside of their cognitive comfort zone, pushed to the limits with repeated stimuli, the person doesn't just give up. No, the person adapts. The person finds a way to access parts of their mind that they were not previously. The person finds a way to let go of their addiction to thinking the way they were previously. Humans are adaptable creatures, and anybody can overcome their type if they want to, if they have to. And then we have to wonder what are strengths and weaknesses in the first place? Where do they originate from? And then again, this is going to be multifaceted. Because as an introverted intuitive dominant, I might excel in those activities that require an internalization of data and cross-referencing with internally stored values within my brain. But how much of that has been channeled in a certain way by my upbringing, by my education here in the UK, by my social circles, by my identity? Even a single function cannot be simplified into this single utility. And introverted intuition, introverted thinking in a dominant position may very well excel more based upon the person's upbringing in a natural manner, going back to our cognitive predispositions, at something such as mathematics, at something typically non-creative, although that's a ridiculous concept anyway, in nature. So let's run with the INFJ analogy. Let's take two people who are both INFJs. Heck, let's even say these two people are in more or less exactly the same position within the vast INFJ spectrum. Well, depending upon upbringing, these two individuals may have learned to channel their dominant stack in a completely different way. One person may very well have pursued a more mathematical, analytical application of introverted intuition, and the other person may have pursued a more kaleidoscopic, imaginative, limbically oriented application of their dominant stack. So you have perhaps a physicist on one side, and you have a visual artist on another. Both types in this analogy are exactly the same. For the sake of argument, we can say They haven't necessarily tapped into much additional functional employment either, but they're still using the same cognitive stack to accomplish radically different things. Not only does no function ever exist in a vacuum, but even if the function did exist in a vacuum, even if a function was in this block-like format, even a singular function can be used to accomplish the same thing as another. Let's say this extrovert sensing myth was actually real. The fact that it couldn't be employed for long may very well enhance the extrovert sensing's concrete utilization, because through extended durations inhabiting an internalized state, the person's extrovert sensing expenditure may be more efficient, very much due to its inferiority. But this is a myth in the first place anyway. Anyone can train to use their oppositional function in an incredibly diverse and effective manner. Many INFJs and INTJs have incredible attention to detail, thanks to their extrovert sensing oppositional function, because it's the hyperdivergence of this function that gives these two types that attention to detail, that allows these two types to live in the concrete external world for prolonged periods of time, while completely and utterly fixated on the task at hand. This isn't an inferior extroverted sensing. This is simply an extrovert sensing with its own qualities. And applying this analogy to other types, every single type has a specific function, which due to its position in this type's functional stack is unique as compared to other types, is performing a different role. So you cannot pigeonhole people into jobs based upon what functions they do or do not have, because every person has all functions. And an ENFP's extroverted thinking will be radically different from the extroverted thinking of an ESTJ, but it'll certainly be in no way inferior. It'll simply be employed more for the creation of plans than the utilization of them, for example. The greatest determinant of success is not your cognitive type, your natural cognitive predisposition. It isn't your IQ score. It isn't this external quantification of who you are supposed to be. No, the greatest determinant of success is your passion, your dedication, your enjoyment, your reliance upon this activity for your own personal happiness, the meaning that you derive from what you pursue. If you enjoy something enough, if you find enough meaning within it, you will, regardless of your cognitive type, excel. Because the greatest determinant of success is not your natural predisposition. It's not how fast you can calculate something. It is not how comfortable you are making that calculation. No, it's the amount of work that you put into it. And the amount of work that you put into something is directly correlated with the meaning that you find within it. And as such, those who care more about what they pursue, those who follow their dreams and their passions, they are more likely to invest the necessary amount of time, work hours into something in order to excel within it. And the icing on the cake is someone who follows a dream which is not aligned with their natural cognitive predispositions may very well find a way to do it which no one else has done before. This person may be set up to innovate. This person may be set up to succeed where others of a more natural cognitive inclination towards it have failed. Because it is through the incorporation of new perspectives, of different cognitive makeups into these various sectors of society, through which innovation occurs in the first place, through which society progresses. I am grateful that we do not live in a world in which every single sector is comprised of specific types, because this world would be stagnant. This world would lack colour, and this world would lack meaning. And it is only because of people prioritizing their dreams and what they are passionate about in the first place that we have arrived at this point in history, that we have progressed as a human race and continue to do so. The future of humankind is not a host of robots performing the roles they were born into. No, the future of humankind is one in which people from all different cognitive predispositions, all different walks of life, can find new and novel ways of doing things, can forge their own paths. Paths not determined by some code you receive from the internet. Paths not determined by this blogger that you find who's only really been studying the cognitive functions for a few months in the first place. No, paths determined by your passion. Paths determined by what is meaningful to you. Can I tell you what career you would be most suited to as an ISTJ, as a ENFP, as an ESTP? Sure, especially if I've fully documented your CPT score, so I can assign specifically where you fit within this vast cognitive kaleidoscope that is mankind. But this does not mean you will not be more happy and successful if you pursue a path contrary to those tasks you might find more easy, to those tasks you might be more initially cognitively suited to. But the fact is, our reality as human beings in this world is so much more colourful than that. And while you may very well have these initial cognitive predispositions, areas in which you are more likely to excel with less effort applied, pursuing another area entirely, an area perhaps you are less inclined towards, less naturally efficient at, may not only allow you to innovate in a way in which you may not have done before, but may also be the very key that you need to unlocking your own potential, to overcoming your type, to becoming even stronger than you were before, and pursuing any path that you choose, rather than just a few paths that were assigned to you genetically upon birth. You can do whatever you want to do. You can succeed wherever you want to succeed. And don't let anybody on the internet tell you otherwise.